Okay, hello everyone. This is Brian Wilton from InterDyn BMI. Usually Kim Peterson is the cheery little voice that greets everyone, but she's having some technical difficulties, and so she may or may not join up with us, but we'll go ahead and get started anyway, and I know there's still some people that are just getting connected in. So today we're going to talk about Dynamics GP Word templates and spend the next 45-50 minutes or so on Word templates. And when we talk about Word templates, there's a couple of things might come to mind, and so we're going to address both of the options really. The first one is the letter writing assistant, what used to be called a few versions ago the letter writing wizard. And Kim, is that you? Okay, I thought I saw her come in, but the letter writing assistant
Brian?
is, yeah? Oh, you are there. Hey, Kim. Do you want to do your introduction? We just started, but we can flip it back to you if you like. Sounds like her audio's not working. So the first of the two template options is a letter writing assistant, and this has been in the software for several versions, I think maybe GP10, and so it's been around a while. Some of you may use this on a regular basis, but some of you may have missed it or not found a good use or need for it yet, and so we're going to talk about that. But this is a pretty simple feature to use, and it touches a lot of the different areas of Dynamics GP. And so you'll see up at the top left we can write letters to employees. If we have the human resource module deployed or installed, we pick up a few HR letters that we can use as well. We can send letters to customers, to job applicants, again if we're using HR. We can send letters to vendors, and we'll look at a couple of these here in a few minutes. And so there's lots and lots of canned options. The last time I counted, which was probably GP maybe 2010, there's about 70 of these Word templates that are available if we looked at every single module where there is a template. And so, you know, if you don't use payroll or HR, then of course you would not have any need for those templates, so you might only have access to you know, 55 for example, but there are quite a number in there. And so, well, what do we do with these? Well, a couple of things, a couple of uses for the letter writing assistant. We have the ability to embed a hyperlink in an Excel report. So if we want people to click on that and then launch a template, we can do that. We have the ability to embed that same type of link in a SQL reporting style report, so SSRS. We can drive letters from any master record, so an employee card, a vendor card, a customer card is always popular. And then of course we can run a smart list and query data out, and with that data that we've queried out, we can send a letter out through the assistant to customers, vendors, employees, and so forth from SmartList. And so we'll look at that here in a minute as well. The templates can be modified. So Microsoft, as I said, there's about 70 of them in the software. If you don't like what they've done, you can modify their template to your own. You can create your own, so if you don't like anything they've done, you can build yours from scratch. And so you, in effect, can have unlimited templates that the letter writing assistant will actually integrate with. And of course, they're Word. That's what this session's about. And so if you can navigate yourself around Word, you'll see it's very easy to actually edit the templates or even create your own template. If you want to share these, since they do by default, they stay on your local machine. So wherever you're launching Dynamics GP from, the templates actually stay there. And so what you want to do is, if this looks a little bit foreign to you, then get your internal IT folks to kind of help with this, or if you need our help, we're happy to do it as well. But what we want to do is we want to change the directory of where these templates are stored and move it to the server someplace, and not have it on our C drive. And so you see here in this example, it's going to an E drive, which is probably a network share. And so that allows us to have these available for everyone, because we don't necessarily want to have the template just available for me. We might want other people to actually use it. So okay, so with that, we will go take a look at some of these templates. So I'm going to minimize the slides here and flip over into Dynamics GP. And so from here, you know, a couple of different ways to navigate this. You can do the old traditional way, which I guess we'll start off with here, and navigate into the cards. And so we'll look at the letter writing assistant driving off a master record. And so if I just bring up an employee, and we'll grab somebody here that at least is active in the system. So I'll grab Adam Barr, and you'll notice that on all of the master records, you've probably already seen and used the Word icon here. And so because I'm in an employee master record, of course the templates for customers and vendors and so forth are not available, because that would be, you know, there's no connection there. And so the software knows that you've got an employee open, so you want to deal with employee style letters. And so because I have human resources also installed, I have the HR letters available as well. But I'm just going to go into prepare a letter, and these are my payroll letters. And this is all out of the box, so I haven't touched any of these, I haven't done anything different. This is exactly what should be in your system. And so these are the templates that Microsoft has pre-built. We'll just grab the anniversary letter there and say next. And because I drove that from the employee card, I only have one employee here that is going to get the letter, so that's kind of the idea. And you'd put in how you want your letter signed and if you want your email address and so forth, so I've already done that. And it generates the letter with a little bit of a mail merge between the GP data and the Word template. And once that populates, then it produces my my letter. And so now you might say, well, yeah, I don't really like the language that Microsoft, or I need to add something else and so forth. So very, very simply done is we can go back into that, and in fact we'll drive it from a different spot here. And so what I'm doing now is going off the reports menu into the letter writing assistant, and here I can, you'll notice kind of the wizard opens. I can prepare the letter, so I could do the exact same process, but if I want to edit the template, then I just drop down here where I can either customize my own or I can change one of Microsoft's. And so we'll do that. And again, all the different areas that I have letter templates in, and again, all of this out of the box, so just comes with the software. So if I flip down to customer, and the default is here, I'm going to create a new letter. Well, what I want to do is edit that, you know, the letter that I was sending. So, well, actually that was under employee. So we'll go back here. Here's my anniversary letter. And when I click on next, then the template opens up. But instead of the letter now, I'm actually getting the skeleton. I'm getting the template. And you'll see the fields that are being pulled in, kind of the variable things, and then the text. And so we'll just say, you know, best wishes. Well, let's do it right here. Next, you know, 5 years, whatever it might be. So we'll leave that in there, so that now edits the Microsoft template. If I wanted to come over and change or add any kind of these variables that are being pulled in, we'll find those over in the add-ins tab in Word. And so all of the things that are available that we could plug onto the letter, are listed here. And so, and this all installs, there isn't anything you have to do different. This should all be in there. And so you can grab things. So here's all my company fields, my employee fields, my pay rate fields, and so forth, and then kind of some general fields, which you'll see some duplication over here in the general tab. But I can pull any of those things onto the template. And so when I close this, I'm just going to save it. And now if I run that same letter, and so not edit. So we'll go back, we'll prepare a letter now, and we're still going to do the employee. We'll still do the anniversary, but in this case, because I'm not driving it from the actual employee card, it wants me to select who the employee is that should get the letter. Now I can obviously pick multiples here, but I'll restrict it to Adam Barr. So I'm going to run my anniversary letter again. So much like the same process we did just a minute ago. And so when this letter comes up now, I should see the edit that I made to it, and there it is down there. And so best wishes for the next 5 years. And so very, very simple to edit the templates. We can copy the template, do a save as is how we copy it. So we can save as something else, rearrange it. So really room for unlimited letter templates in the system. Another quick example, we'll go back into the letter writing assistant here. A little bit more sophisticated in that we're actually going to use a different criteria to select who should get the letter. And so here we'll do a customer letter this time instead of an employee. And here I'm going to do a smart list selection. And so the smart list reports or views that I have in my customer area that I have access to are all listed here. And so we'll grab one that I don't think has a lot of data, past due customers. And so and because I'm in customers now, I'm presented with a different list of templates. And again, these are all kind of out of the box. If you create your own or modify one of theirs and rename it, those will be in your list here as well. And so if I run the adjustment to the credit limit and there's only 2 that are past due, and we click next and finish, and so this is going to bring up a little bit different letter. So same idea, but it's allowing me to pull data from a smart list favorite instead of just picking from a static list like a customer or employee master. And so same exact principle there. And once they're in Word, by the way, I can do whatever I would normally do in Word. I can print these, I could print them to Adobe, I could, if I have the ability to email out of Word, I can do that. And so really they're static Word documents at that point. So the last thing on that type of template, we'll go back over to Smart List, is again kind of using a little bit more integration between Smart List view and the Word letter writing system. If I, let me just open the traditional one here, which is probably the one that most of you use. So if I navigate down to the purchasing area and maybe into vendors, Microsoft has built a 1099 list here, and so that's good. That doesn't really tell me much other than that these vendors are flagged to receive a 1099. So what I might want to do is find out, do I have their tax ID number, because it's almost time to get these forms out to these vendors if you haven't done that already. And so if I go up under columns and I'm going to add, and we'll say the 1099 year-to-date, and then I also want to bring in their tax ID number to see if that field might be blank. So because if I don't have their tax ID number and I'm preparing to print my 1099 forms, I'm going to have to stop and put the process on hold. And so this might be kind of important, so I'll stick that right up here. I don't care about the vendor ID. I know them by name. And so we'll just bring that right down there by vendor name. And so, so here now I've got my 1099 vendors that I paid and have a tax ID number, and I can see here at a glance that I've got a few problems, actually quite a few problems. Well, my list, you know, is a sample company, so it's relatively small. In your live system, you probably have a lot more vendors than that, and so what you might want to do is put a search on this particular list and say if the 1099 amount year to date, and we'll say is greater than the $600 requirement, and ultimately what I'm trying to get at is the tax ID number, and I'm just going to say is it equal to blank. So that would tell me that I'm missing a tax ID number, and so these are really my problem children here. And of course I could set this, actually I thought I set that the 1099 is not equal to 600, so okay, we want to say is greater than. Got to be careful there, so that's a much better list. And so these are actual problems. So I paid them a fair amount of money, I flagged them as a 1099 vendor to get a 1099 miscellaneous form, but look, I don't have their tax ID number in the system. And so of course I want to save this so I can refer back to it, and that way I don't have to remember how to construct it, and so we'll just go ahead and add that, and I could add it to my home page if I like as a favorite. But what I want to do then is drive the Word template from here, and so when I go into Word, because I'm in the vendor area of SmartList, it presents the vendor letters appropriately. And Microsoft, I happen to know, already has done a request for the W-9 to get their tax ID number. Of course, the list is populated with everyone in my smart list. Well, maybe I just talked to these guys on the phone this morning and they're going to send it over, so I'm not going to send them a letter. They have to stay on the list because they still meet the criteria, but I'm not going to follow up with a letter right now. And then again, how do we want that signed? And now I'll get the 5 or 6 letters that I requested here. And same idea, I'd get these out in any way, shape, or form that I would normally communicate with these vendors. And so that's another way to kind of use the SmartList simplicity of querying the data out that we really want to get our hands on, and then doing something with that with the Word letter writing assistant. Okay, so that's kind of in simple form what the letter writing wizard or assistant is about. I like assistant because I've never actually had an assistant in my life, and so it's nice to be able to have one. Although it is electronic, it does work fairly well. So let's flip back to our slides here, and we'll talk about the next set of Word templates that are part of Dynamics GP now. And so these are the Word forms that are meant to replace the traditional GP reports or forms that we print. And so forms meaning what? Well, there's 5 financial templates that we could use. Those are a little less popular. The big ones are in sales and receivables and purchasing and sometimes payables. And you'll see in sales that we have 30 Word templates that are already in the system. And you see the sales templates over there on the right that I have active in my system. And so all of the sales order processing forms are able to be printed now using Microsoft Word, and the purchase order forms are available to be printed in Microsoft Word. And so, in other words, the purchase order is mostly what we get out of purchase order processing, and the check remittance out of payables. So if we pay vendors electronically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to then have to print a remittance on what, you know, as we wire money into their account, we have to give them the check stub, so to speak, the remittance slip. Well, it doesn't make sense to produce that in paper if we're sending money electronically. And so what most people do is use the Word template to actually email that remittance out to the vendor, showing what money is going in the account on Friday type thing. And so all SOP and POP forms are available now in Word. And incidentally, if you want to email those, you have to use the Word template. So if you want to email an invoice or a credit memo of some sort, those have to be the Word templates. You cannot natively email the Great Plains or Dynamics GP report writer report that you print. And so Not to say that you couldn't print that to Adobe and then go grab it and send it in an email. Of course you can do that, but if you want dynamics to do the emailing, you have to use the Word form or the Word template. And so this is a little more complicated, and not that you'll all kind of master this in this short little session, but the thing with the Word form templates that replace our SOP and our POP forms, those are still driven off the Dynamics GP report writer report. So if you have a modified invoice that you print out of GP now, that can be printed in Word. If you print the out-of-the-box sales quote or invoice, those can be emailed using Word or printed using Word. And what GP does, the way this is built, is it uses that report writer report, whether it's modified or the standard form that is in the system. But you know, most of us have modified sales order and purchase order documents. So it uses that, and it converts that to an XML format, which is kind of a generic a way to translate data. And so the report writer goes into XML, and then the template engine that's actually built into GP interprets that, and it grabs the Word template, and it takes the data that would actually go on the GP report writer report, and through XML it moves that into the Word template, and then it actually presents the document in Word. And of course it does that all in just a few seconds, and it's a fairly complex process, but you don't know that as the end user, and so Microsoft's always pretty good about hiding the complexity under the hood, so to speak. But that in effect is what is happening. And so why do I even bring that up? Well, you cannot get rid of your GP report writer reports if you're going to use Word form templates, because the Word forms are still driven from your modified GP reports. And so if you think about that, if we want to make a change to our Word template, our document, so if we're producing sales invoices into Word, if we want to make a change to that, that change has to be made first in the GP report writer in our modified report that we've had, you know, for the last 25 years. We have to make the change there and let that flow through the XML connection over to the Word template, or our change is not going to show up. We can't just open Microsoft Word and rearrange things and expect it to work. That's a little different than the letter writing assistant. That's a much simpler connection. And so these are two very distinct Word templates that are in your software, but this one is much more sophisticated. And so because it's based on that GP report out of the report writer, we still have the report writer to manage and to deal with. And so that makes this one a little bit more complex. But once you get the hang of this, it really is a nice feature. And there's some nice benefits to having that GP report still out there, which we'll look at here in a second. And so when we email these documents out, we have really four choices. We can send in PDF, pretty common. We can send in DocX, so in other words, the more current versions of Microsoft Word. And it's important to note that if we produce a sales invoice to a customer in Word, so the DocX extension, that can be a protected document, and of course your customer then would have to have Word to open that up, which makes sense because it's a Word document. But that protection is kind of key, because what we don't want is to send a Word document out that is an invoice, for example, or a credit to a customer of ours, and if that's a true Word document, unprotected, and they go in and rearrange the dollars to their liking, that's not a good business practice. And so the document does come out protected as an option. I don't know why you wouldn't pick that option. And that wasn't always the case, by the way. When this first came out, the Word document came out kind of open, and you could go in and change it to whatever you liked. So the next kind of major service pack or release, Microsoft put the protection on that after a few people squawked a little bit. We can send documents out in XPS, which is kind of the Microsoft equivalent of a PDF, but not as well known, or HTML. So if you don't have any idea what your customer uses, there's someplace across the globe, you can send it in HTML and it'll just open very generically on their screen, still in a nice format, but they wouldn't have to have a PDF tool. They wouldn't have to have Word. They don't need anything really to open HTML. So those are the 4 choices. So what are the benefits of using a template? Why would we even consider doing this? Well, for the most part, they look a whole lot better than what the Great Plains reports look like, in my opinion. Not to say that a lot of us haven't done some really sophisticated things in the GP report writer over the years, but it's still kind of hard to beat Word. Well, why is that? Because we can use pretty much any font in Word that is available, and so we have a lot more control over the fonts. We have a lot better support for graphics. If you do a report in the GP report writer, you're kind of limited on putting your logo in there as far as being a bitmap or a JPEG, where Word kind of supports really almost every type of graphics file that's out there, and usually produces it in a pretty sharp and crisp manner. And so sometimes that's more challenging in the GP report writer. We can put things on like watermarks, where that's pretty complex to do in the GP report writing world. And obviously, if we produce it in Word, anybody that has Word can view the report just like a PDF. And the big thing I already mentioned is if we want to email these documents out, then this is really the only choice without some third party like Liaison Messenger or Binary Stream has an email add-on. And those were built to email the GP reports, but again, you're going to a third party and having to purchase that. So this stuff is all available out of the box in your system. Requirements, well, obviously we need Word, and depending on which version of GP you're running, GP supports different versions of Word, and so if you're running GP 6.0, probably not going to work that well with Word 2016. So you kind of know how that goes. Your Office and your GP are somewhat usually in pretty close synchronization. So you have to check with us on if you want to deploy this and you have a question about running these. But really anything that produces a docx, so Word 2000 does not produce a docx. It produces a doc, DOC temp or file, and so that's not going to work. So anything that has the docx extension when you save a Word document, for the most part, can be used. And of course, there's a little plug-in that goes inside of Word that allows us to kind of make these edits to the template. So, because most of the time you want to change up the template and so on. And so that comes with your GP, and that just needs to be installed into Word. So very, very easy, takes just a few minutes. And then you have to have an email system, of course, which assuming everybody does. So it does not have to be Microsoft Exchange. Obviously that one works very well because that's part of the family here. But anything that's MAPI compliant. MAPI is kind of the universal standard for messaging. And so if you have any kind of MAPI email system, then you should not have a problem emailing the Word templates out. Okay, so let's take a look at those, and I'm going to go ahead and close that off. And so back into Dynamics GP, there's a little bit of setup to do here, and of course we're not going to go through every single piece, but I want to show some of the kind of the major steps. So the first one is under our company setup, so Tools, Setup, Company, and under that menu we have email settings, and there's also a place to set up our email messages. And so when we open the settings window, here's where we decide as a company now, what do we want to actually allow documents to flow out of the system. I have all of mine checked, but you could restrict and say, hey, I want everything to go out in PDF or DocX. You decide, and you can shut down the different formats if you so choose. A couple of choices here on how the documents, if they get embedded into the email message or if they go in as attachments. And then we have the sales and the purchasing, and so remember I said every sales order processing document was available. And so here's all my SOP and receivables documents that are produced in GP. And I can pick here a message ID, and of course the message is what actually goes into the email, which you'll see here in a minute when I send one. But we can have different messages for different document types, and so that's very, very flexible. So for example, we have a customer doing this, and on the receivables credit memo, we have a little different message right here where we say a credit memo is attached, do not pay, this is being credited to your account, and so forth. And that way, when that email goes out, the recipient sees at a glance that, you know, oh, I'm not getting another invoice, I'm getting something different. And so totally up to you on how streamlined or variable you want to make this. And then, of course, I just enable the sales documents that I want to use, and then we're ready to go. Now, if I go to my purchasing, it's a little bit less intimidating here because we're really just dealing with purchase orders in purchase order processing in POP, and then we're dealing with that vendor remittance, so the check stub, so to speak, in payables management. So when we pay someone electronically, we're going to have our remittance document emailed. And so not too many choices here, so fairly simple to set really even both of these up. And so once we have those created, I'm just going to flip over to my sales transaction, and we'll kind of drive the rest of it from here. So here's my sales transaction entry, so which will look pretty familiar if you're using sales order processing. I've keyed in a transaction here. This might have been a quote to an order and eventually got to an invoice. And so a couple of things here is I'm going to drill back into the customer. So this will bring up the customer card or customer maintenance, which again will be very familiar here. I do need my email address in here, and so when I click on the Internet Information button here, you'll see I'm sending this actually to myself. And so this is kind of the Outlook overlay here where we've got the to and the copy and the blind copy. And so we do have to have an email there, or there's no place for this to go. One thing while we have this window open, this email field down here, you can actually ignore for Word templates. This was actually used back when we had a shopping cart module called e-commerce and another one called e-order. We use these a lot. This email that's blank on mine, you do not need to use for Word templates whatsoever. So those fields are becoming, other than the image there, becoming a little bit obsolete, but some people do get confused and they see email here and they put the email in. What you want is the email up here in what looks like Outlook or your email client, and that's kind of your tip, is that's where your email address will go. And of course, different addresses can have different emails, so if I have a second address for this customer, I have a billing address, I could have a totally different email for the billing than I do for the primary, and so that's perfectly acceptable there. And then the next thing we need to do is the customer card will have an email button now on the bottom of it, and so when you click on that, you'll see the screen from our setup, and this is copied over from setup where all of these different forms are enabled, and then my message ID is populated here. So I don't have to do this manually, I just have to go and make any changes that I might want to do for this particular customer, and of course I do the same thing for a vendor. And so here, because this came from setup, if I want a different message to go out to this particular customer, I could pull a different message here, and of course I only have the one, so nothing there to pull from. But I could make a different message and have something unique for this particular customer if I wanted to. But the format is where I do have, again, a lot of control here. So you'll see my sales invoice right here, which is coming from sales order processing. So that's the invoice that I have open here in the background. That invoice is going to go out in PDF format. But if a return comes through, you'll see I've got that going out in HTML format. You probably will do all of these the same, but I made a few changes just to illustrate that I do have control at the document level on the document type that actually goes out. And then the last thing here is the email address. It's going to pull from that screen that we looked at just a minute ago where my email was set up. But I do have the ability, so up here kind of at the top you'll see email addresses based on the document type. Well, I've got that disabled, but if I turn that on, then that would allow me to come in and put a separate email address for every document type that I have. So why would I do that? Well, if invoices went to one email address, some companies have invoices at interdynbmi.com, but returns might go somewhere else, might go to returns at xyzcompany.com. And so the software does accommodate that. I've got mine turned off where they're all going to my main email address, but I could turn that on, I could enable that, and then that would allow me to go in based on the document and set a separate email recipient for every single document type. And so you can get fairly granular with this as needed, but I have mine all coming back to me, and so no need to turn that feature on. And so and another thing here is I'm using out-of-the-box templates. I do not have any customized reports in my reports dictionary, so all of my invoices and quotes and orders and purchase order and so forth, all of those are out of the box. I have not modified any of those, and so excuse me, what I'm getting is the out-of-the-box Word template because my GP report's not modified, my template's not modified. And so what you're seeing is if you turn this on today type thing, this is what you would get. So I haven't done anything, I haven't put any logos on any of the reports, and so this is just the way it comes from Microsoft. And so with this invoice, we'll print the old, kind of the old way, and so I'm just going to print the invoice. And you'll notice here, because I do have my templates turned on, you'll notice that it's defaulting in to want to print to my template. Well, that's normally okay, but I actually want to go back and print the traditional GP report, and so that's called the standard report. And because they're really sharing the same data, that allows the system to print either or at a whim, and so you don't have to do anything special to get the old GP style report. And so when I do standard and print that to the screen, this again, I haven't modified any of these, which you'll see now, and so this is just the SOP blank invoice form that is in the software, and I have not ever touched it. And so that's what we would get today if we didn't have Word forms turned on. And so now we'll print that using the template. And so same process. And of course, you might do these by batch and not one by one. It works the same way. And so now I'm just going to leave it set to the template. And so when I print to the template, you'll notice there that it actually then goes and gets the Word form. And I've got the exact same information, but now it's being rendered in the out-of-the-box template. Now, modification-wise, anything we want to modify, remember we have to modify the GP report first, and then that flows through that XML connection so that the Word template can pick it up from the GP form, and away we go. And so, so it's a little bit of a process, and once you get the hang of it, it is you kind of understand it. But the first time or two through it, it does take a little bit of effort. Now, Kim and I were talking earlier this morning that we might actually offer a training session on that, where we do kind of a 2-hour webinar training class and actually walk you through those changes and so forth. And so she'll probably talk about that at the end of the session here. So here I've got the invoice rendered in Word now, And, you know, to me that's a little bit better looking document. But you know, I'm sure I would get paid off the other one just just fine. People have for many, many years. But this gives a pretty nice image, and especially if I use this room up here at the left-hand upper corner, I could put my logo there in a nice image and so forth, and maybe clean some of this stuff up if I wasn't using all of these fields. And so, you know, it just it gives a pretty nice image. And so that's all well and fine, but the real power of this, of course, is in the email side. And so back to the print, if I wanted to print these and email them, I could do that by checking the send documents in email, and then I would get both. I'd have the ability to print one even if it was to the screen to look at it, or if for some reason I needed a hard copy, and hopefully no one's actually printing these and putting them in a file cabinet somewhere. That's something that you probably don't need to do anymore. But this is one way to do the email. A little more efficient way is to just email it from the screen, and of course again I could do this from the batch window as well, as send out all the invoices in my batch through email. I obviously do not have to go one by one here and fire these off, but you'll see the email button is available because everything's set up. I've got an address and it's turned on, and the system believes that it's functioning here. And so when I click email, you'll notice that it just takes a few seconds and it tells me that it's actually doing the emails. And then once that shows up in my inbox, which let me launch Outlook here, and we'll give that just a second to pop in there. And you know, assuming that that goes outside of the organization, then you have you've completed your task and not had to handle any paper. And so here it is right there, came in. And so as I open it up, now, whoops, I don't have a lot of text in here, so I didn't take the time to set up a message, and probably could have, but my message would normally go here as, hey, Mr. Customer, attached is your invoice dated today type thing. Please, you know, thank you for your business. Let us know if you have any questions, and and so on. And so I chose, if you remember my setup on that customer, my sales invoice was marked PDF, and so the software created a PDF for this to be sent out. Now, a common question we get is, well, do I have to go buy Adobe or something to actually create the PDF? No, you don't. Microsoft will actually create that in PDF form for you. You do not have to have a copy of Adobe Creator or any other, you know, QPDF or any other PDF writer installed. Now, in other areas of the system you do, but when you're emailing invoices, if you select PDF, it will actually create a PDF. So they have embedded that in the system. That's really the only place that I know of that you can create a PDF without already having a copy of some tool to do so. And so this is going to look just like any other PDF now. So it's my Word invoice, but opened in my PDF tool. Now, obviously, to open that, I've got to have some method to open a PDF on this particular computer or device, and so which I happen to. But yeah, so that's the Word all packaged up into a nice PDF and shipped out. And from here, it's you know, your customer would get it into their system and get it set up for payment. And so so that's really how the system works, with both the letter writing assistant, which is a very simplified way to get kind of static information out to customers, vendors, employees, applicants. If we're using the human resource system to track job applications, we have a whole series of letters that are available to us there, and we can drive that wizard right off the menu here, or we can drive it off a master record. And then the Word form templates are really meant to be nice replacements for our sales order, receivables management, our purchase order, and payables management systems. And so, and we can mix and match, as you saw, because the Word template for the form is actually based on the Dynamics GP form, whether it's the out-of-the-box report or form that I'm using, or if you have a modified invoice, which most of you probably do if you're using sales order processing, it's based upon that. And so that does give us the flexibility of using either or and using the 4 different formats to actually submit the information out to either PDF, HTML, XPS, or DocX or Word itself, and works very, very nicely. And that one, though, takes a little bit more to get set up and so forth. But the very last thing is just the template configuration, which again is kind of part of the setup. But these typically, when GP is installed, these are all turned on for you. And so they're the financial templates that we didn't talk too much, but you know, we've got the posting journal, kind of the edit list for our general journals. There's a template for that because we can use workflow to have those approved, and so the workflow will grab the template and ship that out. We've got the 30 sales templates for all the different sales order and receivables management style documents, and then of course the purchasing. And so if for some reason you did not want this particular document to use the template, you could come in and turn that off. But if you look in your system today, most likely all of these look just like mine. All of these are turned on. The one thing that's probably not is this checkbox way down at the bottom where Word templates are not enabled. And so mine is checked, so that enables the template. If yours is not checked, then the template is not available. And so how will you know? When you go into, say, sales order, and you print, and you grab the document, whatever it might be, and you click print, if you don't see template here, then that box is not checked, and that's why you're only seeing standard. And so you could, you know, turn those on and kind of look at what you're getting there. Of course, if you have a lot of modified reports that you're printing today, those templates in Word don't exist because one probably has not been created yet based on your modified GP report, because I'm using the out-of-the-box GP report, I'm using the out-of-the-box template. But if I were to modify my sales invoice, then I'd have to modify my template accordingly, or I wouldn't get those, I wouldn't get my exact report. And so, but we can help you with any of that if it looks like there's any value in using the Word templates, especially if you want to email. That is the only way to do it without a third-party product, with the exception of customer statements. So we've been able to email customer statements out of the system for a number of versions, a number of years now. And so with the exception of that, the only way to get those forms emailed out without a third party is to use the Word forms and templates. And so with that, Kim, if you're on, do you have any questions lined up there, or do you have any comments that you'd like to make? We cut you off there because you weren't on at the beginning, but
Right, I was having technical difficulties. So
I explained that to him.
yeah, doggone it. I don't know what's going on. But yes, there are no questions in the queue. So on the right-hand side, if you could please, go ahead and type in questions. And then back to that idea that Brian and I were talking about this earlier, I'm going to go ahead. This would be similar to what we do, I believe, what we would do at our year end, where it's a couple hours for a couple $100 type of investment. And so today you've got a glimpse of what is possible. Go ahead and vote. Let's see if there is interest amongst those that are attending here for some type of an online course like that. Because what I've seen over the years, this is just such a cool new feature starting that people like it, but they're not jumping in and doing it. And so I think by making steps and understanding how to do it would definitely help you. So 50% of you have voted. I'm going to get ready to close this down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody wake up and see. All right, that's with 65% of you have voted. About half of you said you would be interested. So that's good interest on that, Brian. So I'm going to follow up and talk a little bit more with our team here to see if this is something we could do. Okay? Excellent.
Alrighty.
All right. No other questions in the queue, so you must have been very thorough. Oh, wait.
Oh,
Here
we
we got
lost them
one.
all.
No, no, we got one here. All right. Can I create all the templates from my modified reports before enabling?
Yes, you could. You could. Yep. Yeah, because you're right. If you have a lot of them, you don't really want to turn those on and people start to try to print them when you're not quite ready. You can enable the forms, and you know, it's a little bit of an extra step, but if you did enable and printed, you can actually revert back to the standard. So if you have just a few people using GP and you tell them, hey, when you go to the print destination here, you're going to see template, toggle it back to standard because we're not quite ready yet. So that's the other alternative. If you've got a lot of GP users, then somebody's not going to catch that, and they'll be trying to print the template and it won't work right, and so then you just don't turn them on. But yes, you can do that.
All right, Jill asked the questions. Can you set up a Word templates in project billing entry invoicing?
Microsoft has not built any templates for project accounting. However, there is a tool or a wizard that actually does create a template from the GP report. So if you're printing a GP report, so anything off the report menu, so anything off the project report menu, which could be an invoice, there is a wizard to go get that form from the GP system and create a Word template. And so in theory, and I haven't specifically tried that one, but there's no reason that it should not work, but any report that you print out of GP that's a GP report, you should be able to now put into Word and create a template on. So you could actually do that.
Excellent. All right. Okay, no other questions in the queue. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time, Brian. It's always great. And again, this is a topic for the last few years that people are interested in. Now it's a matter of getting started and actually using it, making things look a whole lot prettier.
Exactly.
All right. Excellent. Any last words of advice before we let folks go?
No, I think that's it. If it looks interesting and you need help, just let your account manager or account executive or consultant or support or whoever you have contact with at InterDyn BMI, just let one of us know that you need a little help, and we're happy to help you get it going and spruce up your external documents.